Hello and welcome to another episode of Lockdown Tactics. We've managed to produce one of Boydy's contacts this time, a former teammate of both of his, Scotland captain. What a career he's had, sort of south of the border. Come on, Boydy, tell us who it is.
Darren Fletcher. For me, one of the best players I've ever played with. A real inspiration, a real leader in the Scotland squad. You only need to see his career with Manchester United, but even the way he bounced back from his illness as well, we'll ask him on that. And I really look forward to going in depth of that, because it really is fascinating how he's came back to the level he came back at. But for me, I played with him for Scotland schoolboys when I used to be as skinny as him. But
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I'm going to find the pictures. I'm telling you, mate. I'm going to find the pictures and I'll get them to you. All the years back there, under 15 Scotland schoolboys, the Victory Shield, we went and won that. Darren was a big part of that. And then we've played at every single age group, all the way up, and represented the country as well. So for me, I've he's been a big part of my football career in the international stage, and I'm delighted that he's joining us tonight to talk about or help raise the awareness around mental health, and hopefully makes a big difference to a lot of people.
Yeah, listen, I think sorry, touching on that there is, the response for last week for, the mental health side, with Leon McKenzie opening up about his mental health issues. I think, it was incredible. We gained a lot more audience on the mental health side. I know we're telling stories behind the scenes, and some funny stories, some serious stories, and what it takes to sort of play at the top level. We touched a lot on injury, and that's where I felt Jack came in and taught us for at the very top on how he I want to say struggled, because he's still trying to come back now to obviously hopefully play a big part for us at West Ham, but he went in depth with England, with West Ham, and where it all started for him, sort of on a big stage at Arsenal.
No, definitely. And hopefully Darren will get into the same detail as the guys did last week and John the week previous. It's been fantastic. And as you say, the response that we've had has been unbelievable. Yes, it's for me, it's brilliant that the guys are going to come on and speak about it and everything. But I think when you see the response and the replies that we've had over the social media platforms, is what really touches you. It makes you feel as if you're making a difference to people. Yep. The amount of people it's got in contact to saying, listen, it's brilliant what you're doing. People that we look up to and everything, sharing their side of the stories and stuff like that. So it's magnificent. We'll keep going. We'll see how far it takes us. We've also got the challenges, the competition, the giveaways this week as well. You managed to dig out a pair of your old boots.
There's some. Listen, mate, there's some rust on them. We've not kicked the ball in a while, so no. Listen, it's a good prize. I scored a couple of goals in the Premier League this season against Brighton with them, so we'll be running that competition. But everybody, Boydy's been trying to get in touch.
See on that, like when you with the boots. I mean, we said there about the amount of people that's been in contact. The amount of people that's been in contact since you put that. Onto the giveaway with your boots and everything. See, when you get a decent Premiership player, mate, it's going to rock. It's going to fly, mate. I'm telling you.
It's not bad, mate. Listen, I think everybody though is like for John Terry. We've got a couple of things coming up for him. Stay tuned with that over the next few weeks. Andy Robertson, Champions League winner. Young Declan Rice, England international. I've actually got footballers actually contacting us as well, but I think we need to be.
They're on a list now, mate. They're on a list.
We need to be a wee bit careful. We're putting yours out because your top people might think it's Rangers bed sheets and a Commander bed sheet instead of top.
Well, by the way, I was like my wee mate. I mean, you know him as well. Wee Dom Thomas was on saying, "I can't wait to come on the podcast and everything." He's been at Kilmarnock for 2 years and I've never seen him on the pitch. He's been at loan at Dunfermline, and by the way, they're even asking who he is. So, Dom, I've got you a mention, but that's about as far as it's going.
That's all you're getting. That's all you're getting.
But, right, before we'll have a laugh and a joke later on, but let's get some down to the serious stuff, and we'll get Darren on, and we'll start there. So, first of all, welcome Darren Fletcher.
All right, lads, Boydy, Snoddy, how he's doing?
All good, Fletcher.
Yeah, very good, thanks. Nice to see your two faces. That's cheered me up.
Cheered you up in this lockdown.
I can't put up with him. I needed somebody else to come in, man, honestly.
You spoke to me, but you spoke to your missus in the last 2 weeks, Snoddy. Now let's get right into this. I'm looking forward to this one. As I said earlier there before we come on, I played with Dan all the way up through the schoolboys right to the national stage, but I'm going to go right in straight away with Darren. During the peak of your career, you missed the best part of 2 years of football with your health issues. How did that impact you mentally?
Yeah, mentally it was tough, but I always think back and think the biggest thing for me was the illness was like defeating my body, and I just had this thing that if I'd have gone mentally, I would never have come back from it. So I always just had to constantly reiterate to myself, even though it was tough. And as you say, you're in the prime of your career, you're starting to everything's just clicking, feeling good. You're getting strong, you're fit, you're in the team every week at one of the biggest clubs in the world. And then all of a sudden you're struck down with an illness. I think the thing for me was at the beginning stages, it's all right, stay positive. What next medication will work? And once I'd started going through the medications and slowly but surely I was getting worse and none of them were working, that's when it really started to hit home to me that this is tough and I have to pick myself up every morning. But I felt like I had to do it if I wanted to get through it and get back. I had to, a little pep talk to myself every morning, basically because the illness was defeating my body. And if I thought to myself, if I go mentally here, I'm probably never going to recover. Yeah. So it was one of those things that a little pep talk to myself every morning, like, come on, brave face, you're going to beat it, something's going to work, stay positive, you've got good people around you, good family, good support, talk to them and believe that medication's going to work or the surgery's going to work. And that was the first thing I had to do every morning when I woke up.
Do you find that was a big help for you, talking to the people in your close circles?
No, without a doubt. I think I'm not everyone's different. I know what you mean when you're a footballer, you think you're invincible, don't you? And you're the man and you take everybody else's burden. That's a natural thing to do. I'm similar, 3 younger sisters, mum and dad. But the big thing, I've always been me and my dad have always really been open and honest with each other. And he was somebody that would tell me straight no matter what. After I've had a bad game, my dad tells me straight, all the time. So he was just somebody that I could always talk to. My wife, there's times where you do speak to your wife and you don't. As you say, you're trying to stay strong for her and the kids. But my dad is probably my mum's great as well. But I've got more of a thing with my dad where I can speak to my dad openly any time. So he was just the one person that was constantly, every day. I would just all my emotion, all my when I was feeling down, I just let it all pour out to my dad, and he was able to just pick me back up. He was just there for me the whole time, and it's just because we've had that relationship for a long time. And I'm very lucky for that. I do see your side to it where, we're very guarded. I didn't tell a lot of people, best friends, teammates. It was a very small circle of people who knew, and I would actually speak to, and it was mainly my dad in that respect. But you should speak out, and because people are willing to help and are there for you.
Darren, how did that affect you as a husband and a father as well?
Well, that was the toughest thing for me was, husband is important, but even more important is, being a father. And that was part of my drive and my motivation every day was, got to get up for, not only for myself, but for the kids, to be there for them, to try and be the best dad I could be. And that was difficult sometimes because I'm fighting my own battles, sometimes I can't leave the house. Sometimes I couldn't take the kids down the park to play football, or take them to the park and get them out of the house because ultimately I'd be too far away from home or too far away from a toilet, and I just couldn't do that. So
would you say that this has been that's the biggest fight of your career?
No, without a doubt, not even close. To fight an illness and to go through the mental challenges that brought, and to coming through in football's tough. We all know that football's tough as well. You have to mentally prepare yourself to be a footballer. Every day is a challenge. Dressing rooms, players, older players, fans, social media. Making it, that journey is really, really tough, but nowhere near compared to the battle that I had with my illness.
One last thing on that. See, you speak about the relationship you had with your dad there. In terms of the mental health side of it, and speaking out and getting your people, is that just something that came naturally when you were a younger person, when you were younger, that relationship you had with your dad, and how big an influence has he been in you all the way through your career?
Well, he has been the biggest influence on my career. Even looking back I just love playing football. What it's like when you're younger, you go to different clubs and that. My dad guided me in terms of he was the one who was watching the training. I'm going to train with Hearts, Hibs, Celtic, Rangers, clubs in England. I'm loving it, but he's the one who recognised what the better training was. So he'd guide me towards that. He was wasn't making the decisions for me, but ultimately he was with his guidance, and I needed that. And as I said to you, he was the one that drove me, who took me everywhere, who was there in the car, who could own it, who could have honest, open conversations with, who told me straight up when I played well and when I didn't play well and what I needed to do. And it was just he was my hero. My dad was my hero, and I was just somebody, because maybe we spent hours and hours in the car driving around playing football, we probably built that relationship from there, that we talked about everything, and I felt more than comfortable talking to him about my embarrassing illness and struggling mentally at times and going through it. He was the one person that after games, I tell him everything. Whenever I'm down, I tell him everything. He's the one I rant to. He's the one I get everything off my chest to. You know, sometimes my mum comes on the phone afterwards and goes, "Is everything all right?" Starts panicking. And I'm saying, "Mum, I'm fine now because I've had my rant. I've got it off my chest. And I give it all to my dad. And he's able to say whatever he needs to say. And then that's it done. I can move on." So it's good to have that, you know, that outlet where you can just blow off steam and tell everything to it. And then I always feel like once I've done that, I'm fine. And then I can move on and I'm great.
See that, Fletch, where you says there about obviously your dad, right? And it's, you know, it's great that people have got an option, right? Where some lads, you get, you know, younger kids, and you know, sometimes they turn to addictions where it's, you know, there'll be a lot of sort of gambling, or you know, they're going out, or there's different things, or there's a lot of that for young kids. You can see why people and injuries affected sort of younger kids in the game, where they, you know, the career goes like a nosedive, where there's no a character within, you know. And if you didn't have that, and you know, one of the things I want to ask you is, Fletch, is see in the game now, I know we're making changes, right? And in sport, but for me, you know, back then, starting my career, I didn't feel as if it was, you couldn't really speak out, you know. I think more now, like, so I feel as if the clubs are a lot more supportive. I feel as if, like, there's a lot more avenues where you could go. We've got it at West Ham now, and they focus a lot on the younger boys to try and help them through the mental side before they get in. And I think that, you know, what sort of support did you have for the club as well?
No, I totally agree with you. It was, you know, the generation we grew up in. It's a great place now. People are more aware of mental health, and they're preparing young players for a footballing career. We were prepared for a footballing career physically and, you know, ability-wise, but nobody really prepared you for it mentally. It was tough love, you know. It was man up, deal with it, get on with it. You know, they were the messages that you got sent to. But to be fair, United were always fantastic. They're great people at the club. There's a man called Dave Bushell who was the head of the education. He was fantastic for spotting when you were down, when you were struggling with an injury. He would go out of his way to give you different little things, or pick you up and take you to a game, and in the car have a chat to you. And I think he's somebody I look back on, because I'd had a lot of injury problems at United from the age of 16 to 18. I hardly played, you know, and he always used to recognise that these times, and every few months he would send me back to Scotland, pay for my flights to send me home. Yep. He would just pull me and have a chat to me. He would just, as I said, pick me up and take me to a game. We'd go and watch a game, and in the car on a journey, we'd have a chat together. So I look back and think, although it wasn't as readily available as it was now, there is certain individuals that, without even realising, you probably look back, think, yeah, they recognised that situation and tried to help me there. And it's important that people do that. You know, you get taken for granted, really, that this macho world of not showing any weakness in football, you know, and you bottle everything up, and it's dangerous, really, because to perform at your best as well, something you need to be mentally ready. And as I said before, getting something off your chest and then being able to move on from that.
Well, see that, Fletch. See what you're just saying there about the back then. Like, but you just said that you've got two boys, you know, you've got a family, but we're almost in a position now in this generation for them growing up, you know, for them, if they were going through something like this, if it was for any young kid in this situation now. So we've got a chance to make a change. We've got a chance to make it. It's okay to not be okay. We've spoken about it many times on the show. This is where we've said that we want this to be a go-to podcast where, you know, we want sporters on to tell us, you know, about family, about, you know, but people see all the, you know, match of the day, the highlights and different things, but the sacrifices and the hard work that you probably had to go through to get back to that. Can you just tell us, you know, what you actually, you know, done, and how long was the process?
Oh, listen, it was, well, I had to deal with people telling me I'd never play again, you know, but I didn't want to listen to them. But, like, you know, and the amount of surgeons and doctors and, you know, people who just said, listen, it's more than likely you're never going to play again. And for me, it was in one ear and out the other, because all my focus and drive was, of course, I wanted to get back to be a good husband and a good father, but I was desperate to get back to playing football. Late 20s, you know what I mean? And my thinking behind it was, I played ill. Why can't I play when I'm not, you know? But they talked to me about the surgery and what I'd have to deal with afterwards. But I just made sure that, you know, I probably trained when I shouldn't have trained, because I had 4 operations in the space of 8-9 months, and it was one of those where you had an operation, you had a 6 to 8 week recovery, then you went for the next one. But after 4 weeks, I'd trained for 4 weeks before I went for the next operation, and probably didn't tell anybody about that because it probably wasn't advised to do it. You know, I should have took the whole time off. But I just thought to myself, if I can have a 4 week here, then a 4 week there. I knew I'd go back to square one after the operation, but I just thought to myself, I've got to put myself in the best position possible to go back to playing. And another person was a coach called Michael Clegg, who used to work at Man United, by this point had left. And once I was back and all my operations were a success and I knew I was getting close to playing football, I decided to go and see him first for about 3 or 4 weeks, because I knew Cleggy was brilliant. Does a lot of lights and reaction stuff and speed stuff, so it's more like brain training and psychological training that he does. He does weights and stuff like that, but it was never about touching the ball. And I just thought to myself, I knew Cleggy would get me in a mental position to get back to playing, because he's great at, you know, telling you what you need to go through mentally. And it was somebody that I went to, and we worked a lot on speed reaction stuff, because his theory was that the football side, it'll come back, but it's amazing how much I'd lose with, you know, just my mind and my reaction times and things like that, and mentally preparing me for coming back to playing more than anything. And I'm kind of glad that I did that. And again, I've never had the opportunity to do that, but I'd like to say thanks to him now. You know, someday I'll look back, if I hadn't had that again, I probably would have struggled.
See, the thing is, Darren, you know, you speak about your father and you speak about other coaches that have helped you and everything. Was there ever a process or ever a time where you thought to yourself, right, okay, I'm getting all this information from the doctors? What was the best bit of advice that anybody gave you? Because, you know, you must have been, you know, getting stuff in from here, there, everywhere. What was the best bit of advice that anybody gave you?
Probably the surgeon that did the operation said, like, because everyone's telling me not, and he was the first one that said to me, if this operation's a success, you're going to have your challenges. But he said, I don't see any reason why you can't go back to playing football. And he was the one person that maybe the other people didn't want to get my hopes up too much, and maybe tried to they realised how ill I was probably more than me. But the actual surgeon, Professor Sagar, who did the operation, I went to see doctors, and he said, you're never going to play again. It's impossible, blah, blah, blah. And he was the one that said to me, if this operation's a success, there's no reason why you can't go back to playing football. Yeah, you're going to have challenges, but for me, my most important thing is to make the operation a success. Once I do that, there's no stopping you. And that's all I needed to hear. And from there, that was my sheer determination to make that happen.
When did you feel as if you fully recovered?
I don't think I've necessarily fully recovered. I'm in a fantastic place, and I'm, you know, really thankful. And, you know, there's thousands of people suffering in the world with ulcerative colitis in the country just now, young kids, and it's a very, very difficult illness to deal with. But, you know, my operation was a success, but it still has my challenges. And I did feel like I kind of prepared that I was never going to be the same player. I think that was the one thing I probably had to prepare for. And that was the case when I came back. I kind of knew that I wasn't going to be the same player. To get told you're never going to play again, to coming back, you know, something's going to give. It was just about me, was what level can I get back to? I was willing to play at any level, because that's how determined I was get back to. But I obviously wanted to get back to as close as possible as to where I was pre the illness. And thankfully, I didn't do too bad on that respect. But I wasn't the same player, and I knew I wasn't going to be the same player. But that's all right. When you come through a devastating illness and you realise what position you were at 2 years previous, you think to yourself, you know, this is a good position to be in. So it's not putting too much stress on yourself and being disappointed. Whatever I was when I came through, I was willing to accept it. As I said, I'm having a lot of challenges daily and still do, but I feel normal, I feel great. And I'm very, very fortunate and thankful to the position I sit here in today.
How important do you feel as if, I mean, you speak there as a father, how important do you think that is, that, you know, fathers and mothers and whoever looks after kids, don't put the pressure on? I mean, I know it's a total different situation here for you, but don't put pressure on their kids to be a success and let them develop.
Oh yeah, it's massively important. You know, you have to let them make their own decisions, make it to be their goal and not your goal. The best thing you can do is you can be a really, you can be a really good, like Billy Madad, like a firm push behind them. But you're not the one who's like launching them into it. You need to have that just gentle hand to guide them, to be there for them, to give them advice. I'm not a big believer. I think parents do have good advice. Although you trust coaches, your parents want the best for you as well. And not to be a pushy parent, but to be a supportive parent is probably the best way, and be there for your kids. Tell them they can achieve anything. With your support, if they've got big dreams and they want to do something, anything's possible. If they've got the will and the desire to make it happen, and you're there to guide them, support them, and to be there for them when they fall down and pick them back up to go again. Because that's the biggest thing in life for me, in football and life. Disappointments, there's more disappointments in good times, and that's, especially in football for me, dealing with disappointments, a thing that you have to go through. And the best way is to deal with disappointments is to accept that they're going to come. And when they do come, deal with them, and it makes you a stronger, better person when you come through it at the other end. And I think that's...
Yeah, the success is a hell of a lot more sweeter when you've come through the failure, because you've picked yourself back up to go again. I think it's really inspiring, mate. Listening to you speak, you've played at such a high level, and so I love that side of the game. We had obviously Wilshere and Leon McKenzie on last week, talk about injuries and the setbacks I've had, and I think it makes you a better person in the long run, mate. Good on you.
No, it definitely does, and I think that it grows you, it makes you more determined. You grow from it. You're more experienced. You see the world in a different light. You're more accepting of other people. I think when you go through your challenges, you still all of a sudden become aware that other people are struggling with challenges and things in life, and you become a lot trying to recognize it. Can I help there? Even saying to somebody, if you want to talk or whatever, you start accepting that everyone's dealing with something, aren't they?
Yeah, no, that's true. It's true, but you don't feel as if right now in the lockdown, that's exactly what's happening. People are losing people. Two of the ushers for my wedding they lost their dad, and the thing. So you think about, you get up in the mornings and the kids have got certain situations, and there's, as you said, little pep talks to yourself on a daily basis, and you say to yourself, well, do you know what? Like, I've got mates there who's lost their father, and it's really hard, but yeah, obviously we appreciate such a great job that the NHS and the key workers are doing. But as you just said there, it's a great way to look at it, mate. There's always somebody in a worse off position.
No, there's always people. People are struggling constantly with the things daily. Do you know what I mean? We're quick to judge people by how they react to something. Even in football, you see a lad maybe do something in the training ground out of character or storming off, or and everyone's calling him like, look at him, what's he doing? But you don't know what he's gone through that day or been experiencing. You have to, I think we're too harsh in football to write people off and when they have a bad time or they're going through a bad form. The form this can't necessarily be because of bad form in football. It's probably something that's going on in their personal life, and we're quick to judge people as if to say you have to put that to the side and get on with your football. But it doesn't work like that. Once you deal with that problem, it definitely helps you. And again, going back to, I used to have a thing when I was annoyed, and that I'd give myself one day or one night. It's all right to be annoyed and to be down and to be peed off or whatever. I used to allow myself one day, and then the next day, bang, I'm back. Can't do it for myself anymore. Going to do something about it, whether that's mentally or getting back in the team because you've not been playing. It's fine to be down.
What would you see on that? What kind of things would you do, Darren?
Well, yeah, as I said, I'm out of the team. I'm raging. Go with my dad, and you're this, he's that. Blow off the steam. You're raging for one night, but that's good because it shows that you care. Next day, training becomes the World Cup final, doesn't it, Boydy? Because that's the most. On the team, you're not preparing for a game, so training.
I see how you touching on that there. I seen you after. I think I was injured at the time, and I spoke to you, and I couldn't believe that you weren't playing at the time, right? Because I always rated you as a top player, right? And so you saying that there about raging, you didn't have any expression on your face, and I say obviously about learning off of pros that a wee bit older than me, such, and I was like, Fletch, I'm like, you should be playing, like, because obviously I'm a fan, and then I seen your emotion, you were like, no, it's fine, like, there's somebody else in there, and I'm there to support the boys, and I thought, good on you, I thought more about you in that instance for it to say, what a team player, that's why he's been at the very top, rubbing shoulders with the best.
No, exactly. Listen, deep down I am raging, but when you're an experienced player, you can't show that. Somebody's got the jersey, the manager's made his decision.
Yep.
You can't hate the lad that's in your place. And that, I remember Phil Neville, my first season I played in the FA Cup final. I ended the season in the team, and remember Phil Neville coming up to me before the game and saying, he literally spoke to me for 20 seconds. He said, enjoy the occasion. You fully deserve to be in the team. Go and enjoy it. And I didn't even, but he wasn't selected. I'm probably, in the team. And that was the one thing that stuck with me. And even other times where I'm playing and maybe somebody like Scholes, he's not playing, or, these great players, and they'd come up to you and say, all the best, keep doing what you're doing, you deserve to be playing.
Yeah,
so
brilliant.
the messages sent to me that, we're there for a bigger part at the end of the day. Although we're always selfish as players, for me, it was a case of, right, I'm not playing, what can I do to help the team? And the way I get back in the team, it's not by hammering my teammates or hammering the manager. It's proving the manager wrong in training and being the hardest working in training and being ready for when my next opportunity comes. I'm going to show that I am in the team. That's the great thing about football. You're only as good as your last game. And I think that came when I got a little bit older and experienced. I thought to myself, I can't be in the Scotland dressing room here when we've got a big game, sulking and moaning and stuff like that, because I know people look up to you. So you've got to become a leader in a different way. It's
spot on.
I'm glad that it got noticed.
I get noticed, all right. I get noticed because I was the opposite. I just used to go in moods and not speak to anybody for days. But let's go right back to the start, Darren. Young boy, Edinburgh, Fergie, down to Man United. Let's get into that.
Yeah, well, I actually was speaking to Stevie Caldwell doing a similar thing the other day, so I'll tell the same story. I nearly signed for Newcastle. I'd been going United for the age of 12, and Newcastle at this point was the second biggest team, and everyone's telling you, look, all the great Man United midfielders, you're never getting the team, difficult to break through in. Newcastle's closer to home. I really enjoyed it. They're a great club. Alex Ferguson at this point was going to retire. I remember when he originally said he was going to retire, like in 2001.
Was that the fourth time or the?
I know that. But he basically, so they're saying to me, Alex Ferguson's not going to be the manager. He wants you to go to Man United, blah blah blah. So I remember saying, I'm thinking about signing for Newcastle. So the word gets back to Sir Alex and phoned the house one night, and my sister picked up the phone. Here, Darren, it's for you, and it's just the boss going absolutely mental. And I'm 15, like just chalk white, and he's giving it to me down the phone. And my mum sees me and grabs the phone and listens for a few seconds, and she goes, "Don't speak to my son like that ever again," and slams the phone. What the hell's going on? Do you know what I mean? So next minute, a few minutes later, the phone rings up again. It's Sir Alex. Really sorry, Mrs. Fletcher, but we really like your son, blah, blah, blah. I'm coming up now on the next flight to Edinburgh. And mum's going, she's probably looking around the house, thinking, I've not done the housework or that. I've got loads of washing. She's gone, no, they'll come down and see you. So anyway, me and down to Manchester. And now, to be honest, deep down again, another one of those ones I could tell my dad recognised that maybe going to Man United was the best thing for me. Sir Alex doing that. And maybe if I'd been going to United for the age of 12, maybe other clubs were sort of like paying me more attention at the time. So anyway, it got sorted, and you go to Manchester United at 15, and it's the best decision ever made. And the manager, what an influence he was on my career. And going back to my illness and stuff as well, he's another one that was there for me every step of the way. He's the one who gave me my debut in the first team, seen me through injuries as a young kid. And again, more so than anything, that time when I was out ill, looking after me in terms of like, don't worry. I was worried about my contract. It's just signed a new contract. It's like, don't not worry about that. You've got to get yourself right for your family. You've got to get yourself right for the rest of your life. Don't worry about football. Again, I'm probably not listening to him. He'd sometimes just phone the house and speak to my wife. He wouldn't even speak to me because he'd probably recognise that my wife was suffering probably just as much as me, maybe even more so, because she's taken a lot of the burden of me being whatever position I am. And just constantly on the phone to me, at random times and things like that. And an unbelievable guy, an unbelievable person. It's no surprise Man United's the biggest club in the world, and it's down to one person at this point, and it's Sir Alex.
That's incredible, isn't it? He's another one. He's just, I think every coach is sort of trying to be him. I remember speaking to Mike Phelan when he was at Hull, and he's saying, he's like, everybody's trying to be Fergie through tactics. He says, but that wasn't what Fergie was. No. He said it was his man management. He says like, it's impossible to try and be Fergie. He's got that trait, that natural skill to try and get the best out of people. And I think, you obviously you see it over the years, but you are behind the scenes and you've seen it. How big an influence was he? And obviously you can see it now when he's left. But what sort of culture did he create there? I seen Gary Neville talk about he getting the heads of managers and refs, but what I speak about that, Fletch. One thing I always touch on and sort of try to get into coaching and stuff is having that tunnel vision. When you're in the tunnel, you're mentally prepared for your manager, what you've done on that week, and it's I think for me is the manager his biggest strength is creating the culture within the players, signing the right players, thinking about lads with their character, what they're going to bring, what they're going to rub off on the rest of the players. What sort of stuff did he do to try and create that?
Snoddy, I could go on for all day, but you hit the nail on the head right there. People talk about ability. The manager looked for the character. The ability was there, but the character wasn't there. Boom, no interested. He would have took a less ability player who had more character, 100%. That was his all about winners, character. You wanted to know your background. You wanted to know where your family were from. You wanted to look you in the eye before he signed you. He'd probably have walked away from deals that he had a bad feeling about. And culture and environment, we never switched on for a game because that was our environment every day. The manager loved the training games when the boys are kicking lumps at each other, arguing with the referees, snarling at each other, basically really becoming a fight because he loved that because he just seen a group of winners because he never picked the team either till an hour and a half before the game. On the Friday game was like an audition with 25 of the best players around, an unbelievable squad. And he'd match up teams against each other on a small pitch, always 11v11 as well in a tight area. And the boys are going at it 100%, snarling at referees, trying to win this game. And then the game on the Saturday almost became easier. You've got more space against less ability players, and you never had to switch on for the game in terms of a winning mentality. And the other thing, the boss was, he talked about, he wasn't overly about tactics because he had this thing that we worked on patterns and stuff like that, but he had this thing where you have to be unpredictable. So he liked the players to work on relationships. He'd give us opportunities to do attack v defence, work out where he likes to move, where he likes to run, go and find a way to score, build up relationships. And the last words he'd say before every game was, lads, go and enjoy yourself. You're here, forget all the other stuff, don't worry about it. This is the reason you're here is because you love football and you want to play, winning, but go and enjoy yourself, go and express yourself. They were his final words before every game. And what an unbelievable manager to play with. And talk about, he wasn't overly tactical in terms of like all these different things. But the manager studied the game. He sat on the bench and studied the game. And he was a master of coming in at halftime when the game wasn't going well. And he would pinpoint the weakness in the opposition because he studied the game and he knew exactly how to win the game. And it would be as simple as this or that, one or two little tactical tweaks and bang, 99% of the time it worked out to perfection. The guy's a genius. We talk about all these people in clubs, directors of football, psychologists, motivators, managers, tacticians. Sir Alex was all of that in one.
Exactly.
Do you think he had control of the football club for so long, and now the way football's gone, do you think we'll ever see another Sir Alex again?
Never. It's not possible now to do all those things, but he did. But he'd probably grown into it as well. But he trusted people as well, Boyd. He had good people around him and gave them full control. Maybe an area that he wasn't an expert in, say sports science, for example. He tried to identify the best, gave them free range to do, but he held them accountable. And he was a big...
Yeah, but see on that, how important do you think that is? Because, you see a lot of... You go into dressing rooms and you feel a lot of managers and coaches feel... insecure about, say, maybe players coming to end their career or sports scientists and stuff like that. How important do you think it is to have full control, but at the same time give them a little bit leeway to go and do what they need to do? You're hiring them, you're trusting them at the start.
Well, first it goes back to what we were saying before. He identifies the right people and the right characters and the right personality. He does his homework and he looks them in the eye, and I'm sure he puts demands on them of this is how I want to play. This is what I expect. But you're the expert in this area. And I give you full control and trust. And if anything goes wrong, you're held accountable. So I think it's knowing that he's the boss at the end of the day, but accepting that that's somebody else's area of expertise and giving them full control and loyalty and maybe, accepting them, maybe challenging you and things like that. I'm sure he was open to all these things. I'm sure there's a point where it was a case of sports science. I'm sure that happened as well. Do you know what I mean? But
No, I know.
You have to respect his manager's style and his greatness, and you have to accept if he let you. And everyone got it. We talk about the hair dryer. Everyone got it. It didn't matter who hold it to his standard. He let you know about it.
See that there where you're talking about? I remember Evra was at West Ham, right? And he came in. He said he came in at half time, and he was like, I've had a good game here. I've done all right the first half. He says Fergie absolutely slaughtered him, and he's like, what? He says, what are you talking about? So he absolutely caned him, right? And then he's out second half. Obviously the lads get a brilliant, better performance. The team. He says he came in. He's like him. How you doing, Patrice, or whatever on the Monday, and he's like raging. He was raging with him, right? And he's like, what's up with you? We won. He's like, you slaughtered me. He says, you slaughtered me and I was the best player. He went, perfect. If I can slaughter you and you're the best player, what does everybody else think? You know what I mean? Everybody else reacted off of that. And just little things like that is just, listen, you can't teach that in an A license or pro license. That's mentally, you know?
Well, again, like Giggsy was a perfect example of it. I'm sure Giggsy, but come in, because we all held Giggsy in like the highest esteem. The manager just did Giggsy out, and you'd be sitting there going, "Oh my days, he was brilliant first half." Ryan Giggsy.
See, the thing is, see on that, Darren, how many times have you maybe come towards the end of your career and a manager pulls you and says to you, you know, you've been brilliant this first half, but I'm telling you, see, walking out the tunnel, I'm going to have a go at you here because I want to dig everybody else out. By the way, don't take it personal.
Oh, listen, I'm sure he has times where he said that. I'm sure there's times he hadn't. He was a great one to keep you on your toes. Sometimes we'd come in a bit like that. You think you'd have a great first half. You were winning 2-0, but the manager had sensed that these boys are complacent here. They think they won the game. I'm going to get right into them. And then the flip of that, you'd maybe come in and they'll lose, and you think to yourself, the manager is going to go absolutely mental. As I said before, he'd just say, everyone sit down and just calm down.
Calm down.
Yep.
Around the team, and he pinpoint one or two.
You spoke about you know, the training on a Friday and stuff like that, and I've spoke to you about this loads of times regarding like when you were a young boy, you were maybe thinking about going out and loan and everything and stuff like that, but then you know the standard of training on a Friday, you learned more for coming up against these guys in training. What was training really like, and you know what really went on in the training field?
Well, as I said to you, Boyd, I played against Roy Keane and Paul Scholes every day, and they kicked lumps out of me, and I couldn't get near them at first because they were the best players in Europe, midfielders in the Premier League. And not only that, you come off and your shins would be cut, and you never got a foul. If Scholes smashed you, or Roy Keane smashed it, the coach on the sideline's not going to give a foul against you. You start to move the ball.
That was always Scholes'. That was his strength, though. His tackling, wasn't it?
Yeah, but people would say Scholes wasn't a good tackler. Trust me, Scholes just wanted to do you. It wasn't a good tackle.
It's not a bad thing.
I mean, he just wanted to do you, and that was just his thing. He wanted to leave a mark on you. So I like how people criticise Scholes' tackling, but ultimately, it was because he just wanted to put a foul in and just smash somebody and set a tone. And probably because he's a lot smaller than everyone, it's something he learned to do in his career. But listen, these games were intense, and the boys fired the ball into you, and test your touch. And if your touch wasn't good enough, they snarled at you. The biggest thing I took from that was sometimes as a young player, and sometimes you think too much about what an older pro says to you and you take it to heart. And they've said it and forgot about it and moved on, and you carry it with you for a long time. And I think it's just understanding that environment, that if they fire a ball and your touch isn't good enough, they're going to say it to you in the instant, hey, you sort your touch out, switch on. They're not thinking about that 10 minutes later and in the dressing room afterwards. Oh my God, he thinks my touch is right, or, he's on me. It's not the case. So I think you've just got to accept that that's the environment at the time when you've got winners and pros on that pitch who are demanding, who've really got time for a young lad to come through. They have to toughen up and be ready for that level as quickly as possible. Yeah, they give you a little bit of leeway, but they need you at that level because they're trying to win leagues, and coming second isn't good enough, and losing at the weekend isn't accepted. So the quicker you get up to that level, they need you at that level, and they're going to test you. And they're going to give you time, of course they are, and they understand that you're young and you're coming through and you need a little bit of time. But at the same time, they need you to get that journey done as quickly as possible because it's Man United and we're here to win. And, second place isn't good enough and losing games isn't accepted.
Well, that
sounds as if you were talking about Roy Keane there. The only thing you didn't do was mention him. But tell us more about him. How big a influence, impact, what did he have in your career as a young boy and then obviously all the way through?
Oh, a lot, because listen, I loved the guy, and he was the ultimate leader and somebody who, the manager used to say to me, watch the first team players on the pitch and watch them off the pitch. You know what it's like in the dressing room, you're quiet when you're young and things like that. And I'd seen young lads who got in the dressing room and couldn't wait to get out. But I used to enjoy being in there, although it was like speak when you're spoken to at the beginning. I was watching, learning how these guys thought, how they prepared, how they talked, their mindset. I was learning from all of them. But Roy Keane was the ultimate leader and captain, an unbelievable player, and the preparation for training. He was the one that brought in this, you come in 45 minutes before training, you mentally prepare for training, how you train, how you go about your day, how you face up to challenges, what it is to be a Manchester United player. He was hard on you. Coming 10 minutes before a meeting for him wasn't good. Like time for a meeting wasn't good enough. You had to be 5-10 minutes early. Being late was just not even a question. Testing you all the time. But again, it was coming from the right place, because he recognised that you maybe were capable of it and you could deal with it and you could handle it. And he just wanted you to know that this is what it is to be a Manchester United player. And I'm thankful for that, because it allows you to have a long career in the game. And sometimes you might think, oh my God, he's hard on me. But people don't see the 9 out of 10 times where he's give you a compliment and he's pulled you and he's maybe just said to you, well done today, son. But people didn't want to tell those stories about Roy Keane or players in the dressing room, because they're no good stories to tell. People want to tell about the times where he has a go at you and he's hard on you, because they're better stories to tell, and it fits into the Roy Keane character.
Give us an example of him. Give us an example of him pulling you and speaking to you a bit of advice.
Well, exactly. I remember one time, just walking off the pitch beside him, and he'd just say to you, "You were fantastic today, son. Different class playing for the team." Or he'd say in the dressing room, you come back from an injury, and he'd just say, "Tell you what, we missed this lad. He's not interested in playing for himself. He's interested in playing for the team." Small little things, but make you feel.
He's constantly testing. He's constantly testing your character, isn't he? He's testing your character, and dropping little things in there. And I think that's again, it's a filtering system that's been bred for the top. For giving him the license to go there and knowing who's the leaders in the pack. And I think you see. When you see him, on Sky, and he goes off in one, and Man United's is inside there. It's he cares about the club, he loves the club. But when you speak about him in that aspect, you can tell why he probably gets so upset, because he set probably rules within the place that he may be hearing behind the scenes that's maybe not been happening. And he's thinking, well, there probably needs a group of us in there to try and sort things out.
100%, and there was rules, and there was a standard that you accepted, and there was a way that you conducted yourself as a Manchester United player. It does matter, but it doesn't matter. What car you drive. Are you getting ahead of your station? Are you still doing the same things you were doing before you got in the team? He watched everything. He's seen the times you were coming in. Oh, he's starting to get closer to on time. He used to be in early. Oh, he's not doing as much practice after training. And he'd call you out on it, and he was aware of everything that went on in the club. And there was a standard that you got held to being a Manchester United player, and it was non-negotiable, because this is how it is. This is what's successful. It works. This is how we do it. Are you coming on the journey with us? And listen, it was tough. It was intimidating. But it was a great dressing room, and I'm thankful that I came up in it. 100%.
See, you speak about him as being as a winner, Fletch, and a leader, and see when Ronaldo came to the club, right? People speak about his ability and different things, but the sacrifices, obviously, I remember speaking to you in Scotland about this. The sacrifices he made, moving away from his family. He was the first to get the chef. He had all these, weights in his ankles and doing all the, the stuff that people have never seen that.
He definitely wasn't the first to get the six-pack, Snoddy, because I beat him to that.
6-pack of rolls and sausage. No, listen, Fletch, I think it's great. Listen, for you to kind of tell the audience and the listeners about the professionalism that he said. I remember obviously Rio Ferdinand coming out and saying what he's done. He's created that. He raised the bar. For all of us to maybe go and get a private chef and watch our nutrition, see what we can do for agility, our speed work, our strength. He was probably Jose Font spoke about him as well when he's getting a bit older in the Portuguese squad, and he says, just the level and the dedication he took to just be better every day.
No, 100. And listen, he was probably thankful of coming into that environment, because it probably made him a winner. Ronaldo came in as a young boy, as you said. He basically got chucked on a plane after a pre-season game because of how well he played against us. And a week later, he's in Manchester. He learned English. He learned English so quick. He was 18. He did extra training every day. As you said, he was the first player to go and get a personal chef. he brought in ankle weights to train with ankle weights in training, so that then in the game he felt sharper when you take the ankle weights off. He was manipulating.
Snoddy was the opposite. He plays with them, man. He trains without them and puts them on in games. Brilliant. I couldn't resist that one, Snods.
Too easy. Now listen, what a guy, and listen, he was determined to be the best player in the world. And when you see his ability, and yeah, he was frustrating at the beginning, he was a young, skinny lad, the dedication and the effort he put in, and the single-mindedness to go and become the best player in the world. And listen, he had a tough time as well in the dressing room, and there was times where he was maybe holding on to the ball too much, and his decision-making wasn't there yet. You know, he had a tough time. He got told a few home truths, but he could deal with it. He was a big personality, and the growth in the space of a few years, like in terms of, as you say, personal training, gym, he just became this absolute monster of a dedicated professional winner. And there's no doubt that environment in Manchester United helped him as well. So
Walter Smith a big factor in that? I seen you talking about Walter Smith. Was Walter Smith a big factor in that?
Well, so yeah, Walter came in and he basically decided to not give fouls in training. And I know it was definitely for Ronaldo. And the boys were like flying into each other, and Ronnie was getting lumps kicked out of him. Whereas before, you wouldn't get soft fouls, but you would get a foul. You know, he'd be taking the mick and he'd draw a foul, win it, laugh, get the ball. So Walter just decided there's no fouls now in training. And Ronaldo for 2 weeks was on bananas. Who's this Scottish guy? You know what I mean? He's like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, basically, you didn't have the lads would tackle you anyway at United, but if you knew there wasn't going to be a foul. But honestly, it's amazing how quickly Ronnie started moving the ball and running, because he knew he wasn't going to get a foul. So there's no point in hanging on to it. And then he started to score more goals and getting more goal scoring positions. And listen, it's a small little thing. I felt like the second half of the season under Walter Smith, he made a big step. And don't get me wrong, he made massive progressions off the back of that. But it was just a small little thing for a few weeks that I remember Ronaldo being absolutely raging about, quickly accepting, and then all of a sudden started taking 1 and 2 touch and passing and running more without the ball, and started scoring more goals. And I think something clicked in him in terms of the skills in that are good, but now this coaching style's made me recognise that if I move the ball quicker and run with my physical attributes, I'm going to become more effective. And, you know, great management again. You talk about Alex Ferguson, Walter Smith's right there beside Alex Ferguson, let me tell you, an unbelievable manager and a great guy, and had a massive impact in Man United in 6 months. All the lads still speak highly of him, and, you know, a fantastic man.
See on that, Darren, with Ronaldo, was there I don't want to say it sound bad, but was there an addictive personality? You know, he wanted to be the best in the world. Like, you know, like for example, like out training, he wanted to be, last off the training field. If you know, I can remember Rio Ferdinand saying about the table tennis. 2 days later, he comes back and beats it. Was there an addictive personality to him? There's
just a winner, and I think if he set, I've never seen a focus and a drive to do it. It's sheer will. He just basically wasn't accepting anything other than being the best player in the world one day. That's what he came in as an 18-year-old and said and told people. Like, people laughed at him. Do you know what I mean? But like, I was thinking, this guy's going to do it. Trust me, he's that determined that he's going to make it happen somehow or another. He's going to work, dedicate himself, do everything to the last detail and degree to make that happen. And he was a winner, hated losing. You know, spit his dummy out, being in a mood for the rest of the day when he lost on the training ground. You know, he'd play the British lads against the foreign lads, and honestly, if you played that game and his team lost, it was like, you know, he'd spit the dummy out and be away in the huff. But he was just a winner, and he did everything. He probably did more than we even realised at home and off the pitch. He did extra training at United, free kicks and all his stuff afterwards, and he was in the gym early. But he didn't know for a long time that he had basically a team at home. He used to tell me he used to swim every night. People talk about his physique, that it's from weights.
His upper body strength, yeah.
His upper body's from swimming. You know, he's from Madeira in Portugal, so he swam a lot as a kid. He told me one day that he'd be doing like hundreds of lengths every night at home because it was less impact on his muscles. It was getting him fitter and it was getting him stronger. So if you look at his physique, it's actually a swimmer's physique from the amount of swimming he did. And he did leg weights. I never seen him do many upper bodies. You know, he did a lot. He did his leg weights for his power and his explosive stuff, but his upper body and his shape and his endurance and his fitness and all that comes from a lot of swimming. And I just remember that was something that he told me, that he did something like crazy, like 100 lengths every night in his house. and he had a chef and he was eating, doing all the right things. The guy was just single focused, sheer will of determination to be the best player in the world, and he did it. And just a little bit going back to what you said before, Sir Alex used to praise hard work, and he used to understand, like, people think hard work's a given and that everyone works hard. They don't. And he used to go on about it's a compliment to be told that you're working hard's good. Nobody praises hard work enough, because it's not easy to constantly work hard and get up every day and go and work hard. So it should be complimented and it should be praised.
Tell me about it. I struggled with that myself, Darren, to be fair, that hard work side of it. But by the way, we can't leave this Manchester United chat. We've not even mentioned him once. Wayne Rooney. How good was he?
He was unbelievable. He was ridiculous. He bounced into the Man United team as a 18-year-old, just sure of himself, determined, a winner, great guy in the dressing room. And honestly, for what he's achieved in the game, he's so underappreciated. People don't realise what a player Wayne Rooney was and how much he sacrificed himself in times where Ronaldo was going to the next level to allow us to win. He'd go and play left wing, he'd go and play out of position, he'd do extra work. Unbelievable, world-class player. Wayne's natural thing is to be a team player. So Wayne's people going about Wayne Rooney coming into the team as a young lad because he was strong, he was robust, he's got an unbelievable football brain. You don't play in the first team at 16, 17, 18 without having that brain. He's got an unbelievable football brain. And he's quick to recognise in games that I can't just front here, I've got to drop into midfield and do a shift for the rest of this game to see out the win. And I'm not saying Ronaldo didn't do that, but Ronaldo was more about goals and, getting his goals and, saving energy for late in the game. Wazza couldn't do that. Wazza's natural street fighter instinct was to get back, double up, help the full back, slide tackle somebody, get back into midfield. He was an all-action midfielder who recognised moments in the game where I need to do a fill in here for the rest of the team. It's not about me scoring goals today, because ultimately it's about winning. And he took the team winning, being successful, winning titles, winning games, more so than him achieving individual recognition. Although it did come, Wayne's was more inclined to be a good teammate and to win things and to be part of a team more so than other players. And I think that speaks volumes of him, and that's why he's one of the best teammates to ever have.
You speak about there with Rooney. See, Van Persie, Van Nistelrooy was there as well. Berbatov, Tevez. The list goes on and on and on. If you had to pick two strikers, who would they be?
That's a tough question, that, Boydy. Killing me.
Come on, Fletcher. Listen, you've got your management head on. Come on. Who are you putting up?
Do you know something? I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you one. Giggs and all, the older generation, they're out there. Ronaldo can go on the left-hand side. Give me your two strikers out of the year. There you go. I'll cut it down for you.
Rooney and Van Nistelrooy.
Rooney and Van Nistelrooy. Yeah. That's brilliant. Snoddy, I can't wait. We'll get Van Persie and Berbatov on here, and he's going to get back at him. Let's move on to your Scotland career, Darren.
I need to clarify that. I need to speak about the other lads. Listen.
No. You've threw it out there. By the way, you don't get a chance to defend yourself on here.
That's the headlines gone now.
Nah, right, fine. We'll go. We'll go. You can tell us about.
Only because I used to sit beside Ruud in the dressing room, and he was different class from me. I remember I stamped on his ankle the first 2 days, and he must have thought to himself, who the hell is this kid stamping all over me? And I looked at me in sheer disgust, but no, he was a great guy, and I sat beside him in the dressing room, and he's really, really good with me. And that's why, to watch him in action when you're younger, when you're first coming into the team, when you're still learning the game, to watch him in action, the way he finished and how ruthless a finisher he was, and obviously Wayne as well, to have my career with him. I didn't have as much time with the other strikers, so I probably had more time with those two guys, so that's why I'm leaning towards them more. And because of the relationship I had with them, more so, and obviously their ability on the pitch.
That's unbelievable. So was he the second best finisher you had played with?
Second best, Boydy. Big Ruud was only second best.
Second best, unbelievable. Unbelievable. But sorry, I jumped ahead of ourselves there in terms of the Scotland thing. How difficult was it for you to leave Manchester United after the Champions League success, 5 Premier League titles? Unbelievable. How difficult was it to leave that culture, and also how hard was it going into another culture?
It wasn't difficult because one, it wasn't quite the same culture, it wasn't quite the same team. We'd had Sir Alex had gone, and I wasn't the same player either coming back from illness. So there was a combination of things really where it was the right time. And I could have stayed at Man United and been a bit part player and been a leader and being this guy around the place and, loved the club. But I was a little bit more thinking of, I've been through all that, I've been through illness and I've been through all my operations. I've done what I've said I'm going to do, I'm going to get back. And now I want to go and have the opportunity to play football, which I love playing football, and try and play every week and be part of something different. I felt like I was maybe just didn't want to be hanging around at United because I wasn't old enough to be that older player where I was 34, 35 to know just to be a good guy around the place and that. I was 30, 31. I still felt I had a lot of playing left in me and a lot of time to make up. So I accepted the challenge of going to West Brom, who were in a relegation battle at the time. And again, because of the manager, Tony Pulis was desperate for me. I had opportunities to go to other clubs, and it was merely for the fact of how much Tony Pulis wanted me. And he just was constantly on the phone, constantly messaging me how much he wanted me to be a leader, to be in the dressing room, to come and help them, and how he had high hopes for where he could take the team if we could stay up in that first season. So it was a big challenge to go from a team where you're used to winning titles in Champions League to instantly into fighting a relegation battle, but it's something that I tackled and challenged head on.
How was that, Fletcher, in terms of you saying about, you've went there, you've won in leagues, and it's a totally different mindset where you've went to West Brom and he's done really well that season, and obviously Moza was doing really well. He's scoring goals. Obviously every time he got to Scotland, we'd obviously speak about it, and it was, we were in the same sort of situation at Hull, and it was like, fighting relegation, and see that aspect. It's like it's a mentality thing, but then do you try and bring your stamp across from United and try and raise the bar and try and use your experience, but you're working with totally different personnel?
Yeah, no, it was, and that's exactly what it was. I tried to tie into the fact that it was more about the positive thinking, none of this we're here to get a result today. We're going to try and win every game, and I know that's not possible, but it's just switching the mindset really of how you train and how you prepare. And to be fair, Tony Pulis was big into that as well, but he made me captain before the first game as well, which was I didn't expect that, and almost gave me no choice the way he did it. And then it was, but then now I'm the captain of the team, so I'm myself. I'm captain. I'm a relegation battle. I'm not getting relegated. It's not happening. And now that I'm the captain, I'm going to set the standard, and I'm going to be the one to drive it from the dressing room. So it's changing the mindset that we can win every game. We can go to Old Trafford and win. We can go to Anfield and win. There's no fear in these games. There's no mindset of going there trying to play for a draw, keeping the score down. That was never an option, and I made that perfectly clear. I tried to raise the belief that we go to win every game. It's 11 men against 11 men. Because I'd seen teams beating the tunnel at Old Trafford before they even got...
that tunnel vision, that's exactly it, isn't it? It's the tunnel vision, the preparation where you're getting in. And obviously over the years it's changed at United where, we went there last season with West Ham and we get beat with two penalties, I think it was, but we battered United, we absolutely battered United. And I think, I don't know if you've seen it or you maybe want to keep it close to your chest, but for me as a player, it's definitely a different United. There's no question about it. Boydy, exactly the same, you probably same. But, I think once you go there with that tunnel vision, believing you can go and beat Man United, then they know indoors they've got problems,
Oh, definitely. Listen, so if you go, I never went in the pitch for any game thinking I'm losing. I thought I was going to win every game. And I've been in teams who were up against miles better teams. As soon as you go on that pitch thinking, and there was never a doubt in my mind that we're going, did I accept that sometimes we weren't going to see much of the ball? Yeah. Did I think that we were going to have to ride our luck? Yeah. But I believed that I was going to go on that pitch and win every game. And people will listen to me saying that and go, he's absolutely deluded, off his head. Some of the games maybe we played against were like West Brom against a certain team or Scotland against a certain team. Why would I ever go on the pitch thinking I could lose? I had to try and raise that belief in the dressing room for the West Brom lads that we go there and we stick together and we work for each other. If you don't believe you can win, you'll never win, or you'll get the odd win here and there, but it's amazing what belief can carry you through.
Was that what it was, Fletch? Just trying to get a core of boys who had that experience to try and say, I can't go in there as such as, the boy for United going in there and it's like, you know what lads are like and the teams they'll just shoot you down straight away. Don't come over here with your big time antics. That is exactly what happens, and obviously behind the scenes you see that. But is it more or less just try to grab them and try to get, tap into their mindset, use your experience for, your Roy Keanes, your Alex Fergusons, and just try and tap into that and, bring them with you to go and believe you can win every game?
There was a lot of good story of it. There was a lad, Craig Dawson, and he's like the busiest lad in the world. He does everything, fast feet, he's in the gym, nutrition, trained like a maniac, set pieces. He's like the manager's dream. And I just constantly referenced how important people like how is. I tried to do everything, train the right way, do everything right, leading by setting example. But anytime somebody did something that I thought, I would use him. So I'd sometimes go on a rant about Craig Dawson saying, tell you what, we need more lads like Craig Dawson. Look at him. He's in the gym. He's doing extra. He wants it. He wants to be the best player he can possibly be. Yeah, he's busy. Busy, this word busy that goes around football. Yeah, he's busy, but we need more busy players because busy players get you places and get you out of relegation battles. And slowly but surely that set the culture. And before games, I was in the dressing room going, lads, we can win today. We're away to United, away to Liverpool. We can win today. Trust me. Look at around the dressing room. Look at what we've got. We've got a good game plan. We've got a good bunch of lads that said if we stick together and work hard and believe, we can win this today. And once you start getting results and getting big results and start changing the culture and setting a standard, it's amazing how quickly it's either you come with this or you get left behind and you're no part of this group and you won't be there any longer. And it's
it's good just using Dawson. You never used James Morrison as a.
But Morrison was brilliant. By
the way, what a player James Morrison was.
Not just that. I seen. I still speak to him as well, and he's he was at my wedding and stuff, and he's a great lad. But do you know how hard he used to work behind the scenes? He had his own trainer. Used to work with the boy Jamie Velocity. He had his own fitness coach. He would pay thousands for. And Moza, how his career ended. Obviously, not playing as much through injury is another thing. We speak about, but the amount of money and the sacrifices what that lad done. To see him back at West Brom, and obviously coaching. You don't obviously realise how good a player and certain players are until you get one about him. James Morrison was a hell of a player and a top lad and a top professional.
No, exactly. But the big thing with Moza was a big character in the dressing room anyway. So people didn't really see the stuff he was doing because Moza, he was a great player and worked hard. It was somebody who was maybe a little bit more of a reserve character in the dressing room. Try to give him a boost. And to everybody else, maybe the less big characters in the dressing room, using it as an example. But as you say, Moza, another epitome of it, somebody who does so much extra, who is a winner. And that was amazing how all of us come together. Once you've got a group of lads coming together, and especially the bigger characters in the dressing room who have got the same mindset, the same work ethic, the same beliefs, that can carry everyone else with you. And it's a case of if you're not part of this, you quickly get left by the wayside. And
no, the core of the squad is massive. I've said that many times. That's one thing. When obviously you get into the sort of coaching side, probably for yourself as well, is getting that core of lads who that filters on the rest of the boys. And see, when there's arguments and there's results after, you make sure you back the core of boys.
Definitely.
But that's the thing, though. It's easy to get. The big thing for me is you need to go back to Sir Alex Ferguson. Get the right characters in that core. You need to get the right characters in it.
100%. And that's the thing I feel as if that's lacking. Where you sign a player wherever he comes from, and people go, "Should have done some background check." What do you mean? That's the way it should happen on a daily basis. It's multi-million-pound contracts that these lads are getting. And listen, once you sign the right character, there's a young lad that, as you just said, you were that young lad once, and you looked up to the older pro. Now, if you bring those right characters in, no matter whatever it is, any environment, you're not just a role model on the park, you're a role model off the park when you're talking about change. And that's the whole point. And it's like it just works itself. It's like a motoring system, Fletch. When you bring in the right character, the rest of the lads look and go, that's what it takes to be here. That's exactly what I'm going to do to try and get there,
You're lucky West Ham's just brought it in this year then, eh?
No, listen,
let's
Fletch,
move on your time at
let's
move on your time at Stoke, Darren. How was that? And before we touch on the Scotland stuff, is that you looking at the clock there now?
Oh, that's my missus telling me dinner's ready. So
Well,
I'll be in
don't say that. We'll lose him.
By the way, don't say that. I might be down there for it as well.
There's Boydy at my door.
Well, I tell you what. Then we'll leave Stoke.
No, that's fine. We can talk about it because it's important. Because I think what Snoddy said there, that's exactly what kind of Stoke was. You know, there was no character background. The club was in a bit of a mess. So it went from one club where everything, we'd got a great culture and a great environment, a great bunch of lads with a great manager. And so what Snoddy said, Tony Pulis backed all my decisions and things I said in the dressing room 100%. So I knew I had the full backing of the manager. Maybe, I'm sure 90% of the time he probably agreed with me, but even maybe that odd 10% of the time where he maybe thought, I'm not sure of that, he went with it because he knows how important it is that to let leaders in the dressing room lead and set examples, and then that brings everyone with you. So Stoke was difficult, combination of things really, the club, the situation it was in. It was just a bad environment. I wish I knew that before going there, but at the same time, you know, you're part of a group and a squad, and you get my hip injury around Christmas time, but you're part of a group and a squad that gets relegated, and it's horrible, and you have to take responsibility for that. And it was a difficult season, and you know, horrible. The club's still in that position now, and listen, it's terrible to be a part of it, and it hurts me to this day because you have to take responsibility. It's easy blaming everything else, and there was a lot of problems at the club, too many to mention, but at the same time, you were a part of it and you got to take your share of responsibility. And I just hope the club get back. And it's a great learning experience for me going forward to experience bad situations and see how not to do things. Because
that's perfect. That's a perfect way to look at it, because when you get into coaching and when you get to the next step that you're going to do, you've experienced that stage in your life, Fletch, to say, you know, how did I learn for that? What am I going to take into the next stage? So it's also, we speak about the highs and all the different things, but it's important that you go through that in your life to help certain situations. Your two boys might be in that situation. I know they're playing obviously football and stuff, but they might be in the situation. And what advice can you give, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you've got to, from bad and tough times and bad situations, you learn more. It's hard to learn the good times because they're great and you just enjoy them and you get confidence and you roll along. When you're in the tough times, you learn a bit more about your character, you learn more about yourself, you learn more about other people, you learn how not to do things and how to deal with things, and adversity and being in those situations definitely helps mold you. And as you say, make sure they never happen again and try and recognise how they happen. Yeah. Definitely helps you in your future career in football. So not saying that I'm glad I experienced them, because it wasn't nice to be part of a team that got relegated, but at the same time you have to look at it and go, right, I was part of that. Why did that happen? Try and get things from it.
Scotland, 80 caps.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I think you would have went on and became the highest ever caps for Scotland. But you know, how do you look back with a little bit of anger that you weren't able to get that, or are you just glad that you've got the 80 caps?
No, listen, the 80 caps are fantastic, and I wanted 100 caps. I'm not sure I wanted to break Kenny Dalglish's record, though. I might have just settled for 100. But listen, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I wanted 100 caps. I got in the team at 19. If it wasn't for my illness, I probably would have done it. But at the same time, I've got 80 caps, and it's an unbelievable achievement. And it wasn't about collecting caps either. I turned up because I wanted to qualify for a major. Yeah. I turned up to all the games, all the friendlies, everything, because I was representing my country. When I called up, I go. And secondly, I wanted to qualify for a major tournament. So I didn't think about going because, there's another cap that gets me closer to 100 selfishly. I wanted to get 100 caps off the back of qualifying for major tournaments, and just disappointed it didn't happen. And I just can't wait for it to happen. And I want the lads to qualify. You know, gutted that these playoffs are off because of the conditions, because I'm desperate for Scotland to qualify for a major competition even now. And even though I'm not a part of it, will I be jealous? Yes. Would I wish it was me? Yes. But at the same time, I know that you won't find a bigger fan hoping that the lads do it than me.
Just do what Snoddy does then. Just don't retire. Just say if we qualify, you might be able to come back. You never know. What would you say is your when you look over your 80 caps? What's the highlight of you in that Scotland jersey?
Well, listen, captain of my country at a young age, and big games and great memories at Hampden, being part of a great group of different groups and bunches of lads. You know, there's loads of positives to take from it. Although the goal was always to qualify for that major tournament that I didn't manage to do, you can't look back at some of the great games I was part of, being captain, winning performances, winning matches, walking out of the front with their captain's armband, 52,000 hammed in with a bunch of great lads behind you, winning a game. There was no better feeling, and I loved every moment of it. And just a shame that it didn't result in, qualifying, because I think we definitely had opportunities to do it, and we were so lucky on a number of occasions. Unfortunate, weren't good enough at other times as well. You got to accept that, but I definitely think we were good enough, and we're just unlucky a couple of times.
Was there any stage, Fletch, where you felt as if we're really close here? We are so close if we just keep pushing. What sort of stage through your 80 caps where you say to yourself, I think we've got the right players to do it, and sort of compare it on the level of what the lads are at now?
See, but Snoddy, see on that, I'll answer. It's not Fletch. Sorry, see on the bus that day when we were going to Hampden when we were playing Italy.
Yeah.
We actually thought we were going. That's how far we had came as a group. We actually thought we were turning up there to win,
and we battered them on the day as well.
Yeah.
First, they scored first minute and last minute, and we battered them for the 90 minutes. That's the closest, because of that's the closest and the most I felt in the Scotland team. By the time I'd come back under Gordon, I'd felt like the team had not moved on, but I had a year without Gordon, and the lads were flying. So I'd almost come back into a team that had sort of like changed a little bit. Not for the bad, but like the lads were playing well. So it's hard for me to come in the team when the lads are all doing really well. So that was a close time and a great bunch of lads, because we tapped into Celtic's success and put that as the core of the team, and then around it the other players. And we had a great squad and a great team, but the closest and the best I felt was under Walter Smith for Scotland, and the team we played in Boydy under Walter Smith. I felt like if Walter had stayed manager, we'd have definitely qualified for a major tournament, because of the spirit and the quality of the players we had, and the manager we had, and everything at that time just felt like, we're on the verge of going somewhere here, because of how well we were playing and how just everything about it, as you say, it was unbelievable. We battled.
Oh, it was. I go back, and it's 19 caps or something like that. It wasn't a thing. But when I look back at that campaign there to get in and score goals, and the amount of times I done something the other week there for Sky, and we're talking about like my goals. And when I started looking through my Scotland ones, you must have set up about 90% of them.
Well, I was thinking
the same wavelength, mate. The same wavelength.
It was Fletcher to Boyd. Listen, I loved playing with you because I knew where you were going to run, and it was for attacking midfielder. It was brilliant because I knew exactly where you were going to go, and I just tried to put it in an area and let you go and finish it. And that's why you're the best striker and finisher I've ever played with.
By the way, Snodge, I told you I'd get a mention. Told you, mate. There you go, mate. I just teed him up magnificently. But Darren, honestly, unbelievable.
Let me just finish with this one. So one night I was doing a thing with Boydie for his charity, and we were up on stage, and I told the story about how Boydie's got great movement and making all these runs and all that, and how I love playing with him. And big Walter Smith came up after and went, I'd love to meet that fucking Chris Boyd at Darren Fletcher.
Fletch.
Tom and George Boyd. George Boyd.
Fletch. By the way, it was better than that. See when you're up on the stage, he's sitting at the table, and do you know that way he had the stare, and you just felt as if he's staring at me. So he turned around and he says, there must have been 2 effing Chris Boyds. And I just thought, right, okay. But, and then he comes back again, he says, there was only one thing better than your movement, son. Your lack of movement. I thought that was brilliant, Gaffer. Thanks very much. It was brilliant, but that was just him. What a character. But, Darren, before you go, honestly, that has been fantastic. We've loved every single minute. An hour and a half or an hour's flew past it. We could have went on for another 4 or 5, no problem. But what message would you have, for any young kids out there aspiring to be footballers, and obviously, with everything that's touched on you, for anybody, mental health, what does that mean to you?
No, listen, well, you boys will tell you, it's the greatest, not even a job, it's the greatest experience in the world to be a professional footballer, to play. It's unbelievable. Nothing compares to it. Just don't let anybody tell you can't do it. Practice. You, as I said before, you think that you're practicing hard now. You've got to be practicing more. You've got to be doing so much. Listen to your coaches. Accept that there's going to be disappointments in a way. Don't let them stop you. If one coach or manager tells you, oh, you're no good enough, That's one person's opinion. Don't let that define the. All right, use it as a fuel to prove I'm wrong. If you get injured, okay, see it as a roadblock in the way of getting yourself fit and getting yourself back. Except there's going to be loads of disappointments in football. There is all the way. Remember, it's only one person's opinion, and believe in yourself. Always believe in yourself, and never stop trying to do it, and give it your all. And if you believe you can do it, and you're willing to do it, and you work as hard as you can, it's amazing how far that can take you. And aim for the best. Aim to be the best player in the world. Do everything you can to do that, to achieve it, and see where it takes you.
Superb, my man. That was unbelievable. Thanks very much, and you can go and get your dinner now, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, not that great. My missus' cooking's not that good, so don't worry about it.
No, you can come up to mine because I've just ordered the Chinese if you want.
Brilliant, Fletch.
Brilliant. Cheers, Fletch. Cheers,
nice
mate. Take care. Cheers. Thank you. Cheers, mate. Thanks. Cheers. Bye. That was unbelievable again, Snoddy. Great insight to Man United's dressing room story. See, the biggest thing for me was his relationship with his dad. You know, being able to have that conversation whenever you needed to offload to somebody so close. He must have played a big part in Darren's, what would you say, rise to fame as such. But you know, I felt the way Darren spoke there is just him as a person, down to earth, would do anything to help anyone, and you know what he's came through, and still speaks so positively about life in general. You know, when you look back at the things that 2 years he's more or less been robbed of his career, but you know, a fantastic guy. And by the way, what a player he was.
Brilliant. No, you played with him a lot longer than me, Boydy. Obviously, it was the back end of his Scotland career, and I've seen, you know, how good a player he was, but how good a guy he was. You know, and you know, you spoke about it there. Sort of saying, no, yeah, he did have a lot of highs. He's 5 Premier League titles, Champions League, FA Cups, League Cups, you know, Community Shields. But you know, no, just that. It was the biggest achievement he spoke about was coming back. You know, he did have his dad. They had people within the club try to help him. He spoke about Sir Alex. You know, the in depth he went into with him to show you, you know, what he done to make that club so successful and how much they miss him now. And then he went to talk about, but we probably already know. But to hear that in depth about Ronaldo, Rooney, you know, Rio, Vidic, the Nevilles, Giggs, you know, the list goes on. And then the best one, when he started speaking about Roy Keane, and it's incredible. Probably people forget how, you know, good a player he was as well. Not just a big leader, but, you know, such a voice within the dressing room. And it's great hearing him there. Obviously, I know he's probably going to inspire to be into management. He is a manager in the making. He's got all the attributes he get into management, but he touched on having that core. What I've felt myself being sort of just sort of been round about sort of the more experienced lads over the last sort of 5-6 years and seeing it and see how they live their life away from the part, how they do it in the dressing room. I think it's very important. Any young manager, not just player, any young manager inspiring to, you know, to go into management is very important. You've seen it in your career, having the leaders and having the men in the dressing room to help the younger bunch.
No, definitely. You know, and the thing, to be fair, I should have asked him about it as well, but it's a difficult one. But, you know, I always felt as if even up here as well in Scotland, Darren got a rough ride from a lot of people because they seen what he was at Man United and expected him to come and be the exact same with Scotland. For me, honestly, Darren Fletcher in his prime was as good as anything I've seen. You know, he was fit, strong, and I mean, as you said there, for a striker, you could just make the movements because, you know, the ball was coming into the box. You knew exactly where to go at the time, and you had that understanding. Maybe, as I said, for me, because I'd played with him from a young age, and you pick up little things along the way, and it's not until you finish your career that you look back and say, "Oh, maybe I struck up a little bit of relationship with him back then," and stuff like that. But you know, and when I go back to that qualifying for the 2008 European Championships campaign, I mean, honestly, the things that, I mean, even in training, pushing on, kicking on and demanding the best there and on the field, leading by example. You know, he's a lot younger than everybody else as well, but he wanted to be that best.
That fills in with the character, doesn't it? It fills in with what we're talking about in terms of character testing and seeing what you're all about. But when you're making a signing, you know, if you're here with Darren Fletcher's like away for it, you're signing Fletcher in a heartbeat. That's why it's easy for Tony Pulis to make the decision to try and, you know, be so consistent to try and get him in through the doors, because when you're trying to breed that winning mentality, and that's what probably the topic's been a lot about tonight. Try to breed it. Try to, you know, how do you not just only get to the top, boy, but how do you stay there? That's
The hardest
that's
thing.
the biggest thing.
That's the hardest thing. Is staying.
It is the biggest thing, and he spoke about not only the night, Boydie. He spoke about failing. It's all right to fail. It's as long as you get yourself back up to go again. That and he's a fine example. He has won a lot of achievements. He's played 340 Premier League games. He's played 80 caps for Scotland. He probably could have went on if it wasn't for his 2 years stint. He'd have beat Kenny Dalglish's record definitely. And he was still. Listen, see when it
even in that, like how humble was he? There's no doubt for me he would have overtook it. But how humble was he towards Sir Kenny Dalglish as well? Unbelievable. That just sums him up as a person. But
see that though, Boydie. See that. See him touching on that. I think. I'm excited to see how Fletch does because I know he's probably wanting to go into management.
There's another chapter in Darren Fletcher. There's another chapter in him. In
delighted to have him on it. Brilliant.
And management.
You've produced one. I like it, Boydie. Well done. Well done.
Anyways, I told you I'd keep the best. Up my sleeve, mate. Up my sleeve. But no. Well, what else we got? We've got the competitions. We've got your teammate Declan Rice. 5 top challenges. Unbelievable. Again this week, the response we had. But here's the best 5.
That's incredible there, Boydie. It's only sort of it's a shame that it needs to be one winner, but the efforts again, it was superb the way that people are taking part, people are going out. We speak about it, we touch on it. It's very vital we stay active, stay mentally tuned in through this. People go out in the back garden. If we can help put on the challenges, the prizes, and listen, we've got some cracking ones coming up. Stay tuned.
You're right. We need to stay. We'll stay tuned, and we'll get them. We'll get the prizes. They'll keep coming. Everything. I think, for me, I'm going to have to dig into the old boxes and see what's in there. See if there's anything lying in there.
You've managed to balls must be in there. Come on.
That's probably it. There'll be a good 7 or 8 of them, mate.
They'll be like medicine balls. They're that old.
Don't worry about that. I'm trying to think what else. What do you get for scoring 5 in 2 games? There's nothing for there, but listen. By the way, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that further. That's for a few episodes down the line. Don't worry about that. But well, thanks everybody again for listening. Remember to subscribe over at the YouTube channel and listen to other platforms or social media. There'll be some fantastic prizes, and for us, once again, stay at home, stay safe. And hopefully we'll get through this very soon. But I might get some banter out of Snoddy next week, but we'll keep trying to do our best. And thanks very much again, everyone.
Thank you.
Perfect. Cheers.